Hello, good evening to you. Welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live on News Hub here at Desawe Kanda. Also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. I am Alfred Ocansey. Tonight, we're getting to it as the impact of these new taxes that have been approved by Parliament awaiting presidential accent already has gotten the public reacting to it. We'll focus on the income tax amendment bill today. Stay with us as we get into the calculations to find out how it will impact on your pocket going forward. Also, we stay with Parliament as the last-minute bills that Parliament always has to approve on the last day of their sitting has been of concern to many, and indeed the general public have been reacting to this. Cletus Avoka joins us later on Ghana Tonight to find out why this is the case as MPs pack so many bills on the last day. Stay with us. And these extortion allegations against the Ghana Police Service is growing. And this video has been making the rounds, gone viral. The police service has issued a statement on it. But there are many who are calling for an independent investigation instead of the Ghana Police Service investigating itself on this matter. This is not the first time we're seeing this. And we've had the Ghana Police Service indeed have to investigate itself a number of these issues. But stay with us and let's hear from you as well, as always. The issues that we talk about of concern to you, the Ghanaian people, and you're an integral part of the conversation. The hashtag we're using is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and Twitter. Let's get talking. Well, let's settle for Ghana Briefs. Organized labor has kicked against the new tax bills passed by Parliament. The Trade Union Congress, TUC, and the National Association of Graduate Teachers, NAGRAT, have threatened to protest if deductions are made from workers' salaries as a result of the taxes.
That is going to affect the people. They increase salaries by 30%. The next day they increase electricity tariffs by 29.9% and increase water by about some 15%. And now you bring in income tax. So where is the 30%? It's been eroded. If by the end of April we see a dip in our salaries, we don't have a choice than to advise ourselves.
This one is going to affect employment. Management are going to lay off workers if they are unable to pay their taxes, so they are not to meet their income as against their expenditure.
Incumbent Member of Parliament for Medina, Francis Xavier Sosu, will run unopposed for the NDC parliamentary primaries after his only contender, Prince Moses Zakari, was disqualified by the vetting committee at the ongoing vetting for over 100 NDC aspirants in Accra.
Sitting MPs will not go through rigorous vetting because they have met the basic requirement. You can't say sitting MPs are not contributing to the constituency. They attend funeral, they spend a lot of money, they pay school fees, they pay people medical bill, party members medical bill. That's enough. But every candidate must be vetted.
The Internal Audit Agency has directed public sector workers who are receiving salaries and allowances they do not deserve to refund them or face prosecution. Director General Dr. Eric Odrosai gave the warning during a meeting with the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission in Accra.
You have people who have been employed in the public sector. They go and their bosses ask them to stay at home because they don't have places to sit. So these people are at home, government is paying them. All those people, once we cite them in our report, we advise the Controller and the Ministry of Finance to quickly delete their names from the payroll.
Scores of NDC executives, some members of parliament in the Northern region, and supporters massed up at the Tamale High Court to solidarize with the Member of Parliament for Savelugu constituency, Alhaji Idris Jacob, over a bench warrant issued by the court to get the MP arrested. A Savelugu lawmaker, together with the chief of Duko, Now, Mohammed Ahmed, facing trial over unlawful possession of firearm. The Member of Parliament for Tamale South constituency, Haruna Idriso, explained why the MP was in court.
On some tax legislation, the judge did not find that convincing enough. So that is where the law, we have to see how to evolve our democracy and our jurisdictional law further in saying that under circumstances of a member of parliament seeking and wanting to exercise a lawful mandate imposed on him as a representative of the people, he does have an obligation to the people of Savlugu, to the people of Ghana, and in particularly with the distressed economy, to join to support or disapprove of some tax motion. That is why he was unable to attend upon court on 31st March.
Three Business, in collaboration with the Africa Center for Energy Policy and the Money Africa, will host the business community in the premier edition of the Economic Sustainability Summit in Accra on Tuesday, April 4. Discussants will focus on the drivers and sustainable management of Ghana's public debt and the impact of the ongoing debt restructuring program on the economy.
And this summit, we're trying to have a conversation that look at other fiscal and governance problems that keep, triggering the debt unsustainability, and begin to really address those problems.
Just political fiat, treasury bill rates were brought down. Not because of demand and supply, not the market factors playing anything. It's just by a political fiat that we have treasury bill rates come down. Just last week, policy rates have been increased. Businesses are now going to pay more. The excise tax and all the three taxes that we're talking about are all going to affect businesses. So there's going to be a state of economic malaise that is going to affect the people. They increase salaries by 30%. The next day, they increase electricity tariffs by 29.9% and increase water by about some 15%. And now you bring in income tax. So where is the 30%? It's been eroded. If by the end of April, we see a dip in our salaries, we don't have a choice than to advise ourselves.
Angel Kabono of the National Association of Graduate Teachers, NAGRA, they're saying they're going to advise themselves if eventually this particular, the income tax amendment bill is accented to by the president and it becomes law, because eventually then there's a certain bracket of income earners are going to be heavily impacted. Well, that's the notice they've given. In fact, they are not alone in this. Regardless of the concerns that businesses and individuals raised about the impact of these new taxes and the stability clauses, especially that Ghana has signed with the mining companies operating, for instance, in this country, government had a different view that the only way to address the domestic revenue challenge in order to get the IMF board's approval of the assistance we are seeking from them is to impose these new taxes, when the business community has been quite clear on how these taxes will impact them and then eventually impact us as well. And there were calls for government to look at alternative ways of raising the same revenue by cutting down expenditure. That's simple accounting. If you're not making so much money, cut down on your expenditure, save some money. That did not get the approval and the listening ears of government. This is what we're going to be dealing with. This is what the business community says, that they would have no option than to pass on these to us. The projected revenue from the excise duty amendment bill, for instance, is 400 million cedis annually. And that for the growth and sustainability bill is 2.2 billion. And 1.2 billion for the income tax amendment bill that has been approved. The business community is already dealing with these tariff increases since January. Okay, and that has led to the increase in the price of some of the items we are buying already. For instance, sachet water and all these other things, that bottled water, and then also other products on the market have been impacted by these increases of 172% change in tariffs. Industry, 80%. We're talking about electricity tariffs, about 65%. You saw what ECG is going around taking their money. Okay, GUTA, AGI, importers and exporters, labor, they say that this will lead to an increase in the cost of doing business, and they're already paying all of these taxes that we've seen over the period. So many of them, look at a lot of them that they're already dealing with even before these new taxes kick in. And what that means is that all things being equal, they're going to pass it on to us. And you and I are already dealing with the price of items which have skyrocketed over the period, and the money inside your pocket remains the same, or actually is reducing in value. There is also the income tax amendment bill, which was approved, which will affect a certain bracket of income earners significantly. Now, this is how things look like from the table of analysis that we've seen accompanying this particular bill. So if you are earning 3,012 between, that is 500, 200, 300 to this particular point, 3,132, the rate of tax hasn't changed. Now we are seeing the next 840 cedis in addition to this is going to attract that's the 5%. That's your annual income. So you see this breakdown and how the changes, in fact, the sixth rule that has been added now is if your annual income exceeds 120,000 cedis annual, so you divide 120,000 by 12, then you are seeing a 35% is existing as we speak. Now, this is what we're dealing with now. And this is the amended one is what we see here. So with this change, and keep this in mind, you have the 5, 10, 17.5, 25% for those earning a little over 81,000. Now look at the amended one. With the increase, you've seen that 25% go up to 30%. And those, the seventh that row that has been added is the 35% for those earning 600,000 cedis annually and above. So you do the calculation divided by 12. Here's what we're going to do. Later on the show, stay with me. We'll focus on the income tax amendment bill, and it's for good reason. We don't want to box all three bills that were approved together, so you can follow quite closely and understand the exact impact that this is going to have. So today we'll focus on the income tax amendment bill and how this is going to impact on your pocket. We have a tax expert joining us tonight to look into this. And quite apart from that, whether this is progressive or regressive in this, we'll find out tonight. Plus, why does Parliament always have to pack all these important bills for the last day? And then sometimes they approve it at midnight. And then we, the public, we wake up to the news of these approvals. Cletus Avoka, one-time majority leader, current MP for Zebula constituency. He served in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 6th, and this 8th Parliament. He will join us to tell us why right after this quick break. This is Ghana Tonight. Stay with us. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to demonstrate to you the superior properties of Flamingo paint as compared to other paint brands on the market. We take equal quantities of Flamingo paint and this ordinary paint. We then dilute them with water. And now, let the test begin. The gentleman on the left is going to apply the ordinary paint, and the gentleman on my right will use the Flamingo superior paint. As you can clearly see, Flamingo has the obvious better hiding. Furthermore, Flamingo has painted a much larger area. You know, one bucket of flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint is made with superior formulation to give superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior.
Win your share of over 3 million Ghana cedis worth of prizes whenever you buy a bottle of Guinness, Star, or Origin. Dial *1000# to submit the code under the crown, and you can win cash, free airtime, and drinks. So, look sharp. This advert is FDA approved. Drink responsibly, not for sale to persons under the age of 18 years. Not recommended for pregnant women.
3 Business, in association with the Africa Center for Energy Policy (ACER) and the Imani Center for Policy and Education, presents the Economic Sustainability Summit, a meeting of high-powered critical thinkers, problem solvers, and economic gurus. Join Benjamin Boachi of ACER, Professor Bokbin, University of Ghana, David Ofosudote, ABN David Africa, Senyi Hosi, Cleveland Tove, Doris Ahiati, Executive Coach, and Kwame Pienim, renowned economist. Make a date with us at the Marriott Hotel Airport on Tuesday, 4th April 2023 at 10 o'clock a.m. The 3 Business Economic Sustainability Summit, powered by 3FM and TV3.
You are a major stakeholder in nation building. Your voice matters. Start your day with us.
We simplify the conversations, break down the jargons and technicalities. We keep you well informed throughout the week. Start your day with us.
Knowledge is power. We put you in the know of the happenings in Ghana and the world over. The main reason why you need to start your day with us.
We give the leaders the mandate to govern our affairs. We have a responsibility to hold them to account. It begins here. Start your day with us. Good morning, Ghana, Africa, and the rest of the wonderful world. Welcome to Sunrise on 3FM 92.7.
Start your day well informed. Start with us on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. Catch the all-new Sunrise Morning Show with me, Johnny Hughes, Helen Apiampofo, William Asiedu,
and Noble Crosbyan.
Weekdays from 5:55 a.m. to 10 a.m. only on 3FM 92.7. Your urban lifestyle radio.
Welcome back. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live on TV Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. While Parliament worked late into the night on Friday to pass their 3 controversial revenue bills, both sides of the House needed to desperately marshal their numbers to support the position. In fact, it's all been about the numbers game in this 8th Parliament. Out of that, the Nangtong Member of Parliament, Mohamed Tufero, who was rushing to Parliament, was involved in an accident, but that did not stop him. Details of the situation are not particularly pleasant, as the MP recounts. In fact, there's a bigger conversation about why Parliament takes delight in passing these very important bills at the last minute or on the last day into midnight. But first, take a look at this report. What is emerging from this MP's accident, and why he decided to still go to Parliament to go and vote while we understand his dress was stained with blood. Komla Adam has this. Take a look.
It is emerging Member of Parliament for Nantong who was shuttled to Parliament to participate in approval of 3 fresh revenue bills last Friday, had his wounds stitched in the House of Legislature. Mohamed Tuferu has come under severe criticism over his decision to abandon the hospital just to participate in parliamentary proceedings after being involved in a ghastly road accident. The Deputy Agric Minister, whose vehicle was mangled beyond recognition, said he decided to proceed to Parliament after the accident because he wanted the government tax bills to be approved. Second Majority Chief Whip Habib Idrisu has said the Nanton MP sustained bruises from the accident and was attended to by nurses and doctors in the washroom of the House of Legislature. In the last few hours, Mohamed Tufeiru has been speaking, justifying his decision. Speaker of Parliament Aban Bagbin says he did nothing untoward by including Mohamed Tufeiru in the head counts that were carried out on the floor of Parliament during the tax approvals. The Nanton lawmaker is quoted to have said he considered his life less important than the passage of the tax bills. The MP also admitted that his excessive speed led to Friday's accident. Many have since described the actions of the MP as irresponsible and dangerous.
Well, look, that's how ghastly this accident was, and this is the MP that we were all crying for and worrying about, saying, you know what, I value these revenue bills more than my own life. Okay, she's been talking. You can find that on 3news.com. Let's go on to Zoom now. Cletus Avoka is one-time majority leader, a former minister. He's currently MP for the Zebela constituency. He served in Parliament for quite a while, the first, second, third, sixth, eighth, this eighth Parliament as well. I thank you so much, Mr. Cletus Avoka, for joining us on Ghana Tonight. First off, you've heard your colleague who was involved in an accident, the Deputy Agric Minister. He's saying that at that point, he was thinking more about the bills, the revenue bills, than his own life. That's why he rushed to Parliament with his dress stained with blood to even go and approve this bill. What's your take on that?
I'm surprised that he can say that. Supposing he lost his life in the process, where would he have been in Parliament to take part in the vote? You must be alive to be able to participate and to be able to be counted. If you are not alive, how are you going to be to count for it? But even if he was wounded such that he couldn't come to the chamber, he had to be rushed to hospital, how would he have taken part? I mean, that is with the greatest respect, that is not a very responsible statement to make. We need you to take a decision. We don't take decisions based on dead bodies or very ill people. That I don't think that is a proper way to go about things. He should have said he regretted that. It was wishful thinking that let me drive very fast, I can still make it. It was hope against hope, and unfortunately made that incident. We thank God for his life anyway. But this tells us that we must program better. The executive must program more responsive in their programming. Parliament itself must be more responsive. If there's something that we think that we don't have time to do due diligence, we should defer it to another date so that the executive will learn a lesson.
Anyway, but you see, you're deferring the blame to the executive. That's fine, but you agree, okay, that things have to be done differently, is it not? I mean, if this your colleague is saying he valued these bills more than his life, this happened at night because you were still sitting at night. You went on recess at 1 a.m. on Saturday. Why?
Yes, I agree with you entirely. I think that the Speaker and leadership of Parliament should indicate to the executive that if there is an urgent bill or a loan agreement and they don't bring it to Parliament 2 weeks before we rise, we will defer that bill until the next sitting. When we don't raise any concerns and they dump everything on us, and that is where we don't, when we don't have sufficient time, then we don't do a scrutiny, we don't do due diligence. And that is where a bill can come out and be bad law, or a loan agreement can come out and then be bad loan agreement, just because of lack of due diligence, because there's little time at our disposal. And unfortunately, some loan agreement might be time bound. And they said if you don't pass it this time, then it lapses. And then the country needs that loan to be able to undertake some project. So we are constrained by nationalism to be able to stay back and then pass those loans into fruition. But I think that we should have a common understanding. Let the executive understand that if we want us to do proper scrutiny, proper due diligence, as far as loans are concerned, And then if you also want us to do proper diligence in passing legislation, then we must have this at a good time so that we can do the proper work. Otherwise, we defer them until the next sitting. I think it is inhuman that, for example, last Friday, we started until 1 a.m. and then closed. I mean, you can't make a good law as a result. I mean, with that type of arrangement, you can't make a good agreement with that type of arrangement. The honorable colleague who were rushing to Parliament is because we were looking for numbers. This loan agreement, the NDC had decided that they would not support this loan agreement. I mean, these bills, the tax bills. Right. And then the majority were determined to pass at all costs. So they were calling their members wherever they were in the country or even outside the country. And that is why he was driving recklessly to Parliament and unfortunately was involved in this accident. I'm very sorry about that, but I think that we should, if he knew, the MP knew earlier, he was sensitive earlier, he wouldn't have had the difficulty that he encountered by driving very late to Parliament.
But what, Honorable Clerk, why is this the case? You have this penchant of always, it's not just this recess you went on, always you pack things on the last day, and then very important bills as well, and then you stay up so late. Sometimes some of you get so tired, you're even approving certain things you don't even scrutinize so well. Okay, so why?
I think this scenario takes place against the backdrop of several factors. They include, one, lack of strategic planning or poor planning by the executive. Part of the blame, first and foremost, must be at the doorsteps of the executive, the president, and then cabinet. Then secondly, it is poor timing or poor time management. I think that we normally take things for granted, hoping against hope. And that explains that it might be indiscipline on the part of those who prepare matters to come to Parliament, and of course, indiscipline on part of members of Parliament organizing their program and attending to the work. Then sometimes it can be difficulty in processing some of these loans and bills before it comes to Parliament. You know, before you bring a loan agreement to Parliament, it has to meet certain criteria, value for money audit, etc.
Indeed.
So by the time that you go through that one, it might have taken you 3 months, 6 months, or even a year. And then last minute that it is ready to be laid in Parliament, and then they rush it to Parliament. And then sometimes Parliament's own challenges. For example, you are aware that we are supposed to start proceedings in Parliament from 10 a.m. until up to 2 o'clock before we close. And indeed, sometimes we can even sit beyond the 2 o'clock. But more time than often, we start 11 o'clock instead of 10 or 12 o'clock. Or when it is getting late like that, we start even sometimes 1 o'clock. This week or last week, we are starting very late. And that accounts for some of these delays. So it is multifaceted. There are so many factors: poor planning, lack of strategic planning, poor time management, difficulty in processing loans and bills, documents to Parliament, and then Parliament own indiscretion. These are factors that account for loading of work during the last week of Parliament rising.
I see, but you see, when is the last day? You all find time to come. During the period of the session, some of you don't go to Parliament, and then the executive also, who have appointed some the MPs as ministers, they don't attend to the business of the House, which is their primary duty of representation, representing the people. But when is the last day, and as you are saying, you blame the executive because they know that you also don't go to the House until the last day. So they will keep some of these important bills for the last day because they know all of you will show up, isn't it?
They are not reserved by Parliament. I've indicated that these bills normally come late from the executive, from cabinet to Parliament. You know that Parliament doesn't originate bills unless it is a private member's bill. Parliament doesn't originate loan agreements. Parliament doesn't. They come from the executive. And when it comes from the executive, it is late. That we call it first reading. It is late. And then refer to the appropriate committee. Maybe if it is a loan agreement, it is referred to the finance committee or a joint committee or finance committee and then some other institution that is related to that work. And then they have to do the necessary investigations. They have to do the necessary consultations. Because this is an agreement. They have to meet stakeholders, they have to discuss and then understand properly before they bring it back to Parliament. If it is a bill for the second reading and then the third reading, but if it is a loan agreement, when they go through the processes by consultation, the rest of them, before it comes back to the House for full debate. So the delay comes from the executive and not necessarily from Parliament.
I see.
Yes, of course. Sometimes we are part of it. As I said, instead of sitting at the right time at 10 a.m., we normally sit an hour late or 2 hours late. But majority or much of the blame must come from the executive, not from Parliament. Because we don't originate bills and we don't originate loan agreements, etc.
Anyway, Cletus Avoka, thank you. Thank you, but you agree that it's a challenge which has to be addressed by both the executive and indeed the leadership of Parliament. I appreciate your time, as always, for connecting with us on Zoom. Cletus Avoka is a member of Parliament for the Zebila constituency. He's represented 2 other constituencies in Parliament, Boko West and then also Garo Timpani at a point. He's been a majority leader before. He's been in 6 parliaments out of the 8 that we have. He's a member of this 8 parliaments, so clearly understands the work of the Legislative House of Parliament. But let's still stay with Parliament a bit, shall we? The approval of the 3 new taxes has been greeted with anger among some business owners in the Ashanti region, the capital, Kumasi, who insist it is a threat to the survival of their businesses. Take a look.
These taxes, according to government, are essential to satisfying a key requirement for the International Monetary Fund to approve the $3 billion bailout for the country. But at the Central Business District of Kumasi, some business owners are yet to reach acceptance with the introduction of the new taxes.
When you're able to achieve IMF conditionalities and get your loan, and businesses are the backbone of this economy, there's no more. Where would this country be? The call have always come that this austerity period, government should be measured in its expenditure. That has not been done. But it's only interested in how do I get the revenue? Revenue from a collapsed economy, collapsed businesses. That is what we are in now.
In every country, taxes are what the government use to improve the living condition of the people. But in our case, the standard of living at the moment is very hard. So adding more or bringing in new taxes would be of benefit to we the traders.
The excise duty amendment bill, now passed into law, is expected to raise revenue to mitigate some of the harmful effects of tobacco products. Also, this revised bill will increase the excise duty on products like wine, sweetened beverages, among others. Agnes Akomia deals in sweetened beverages.
Because of the taxes, the amount of sales will reduce. That's the first problem. So we always spend some of the money that I have already invested in the business. So by all means, I don't know, with time, I think we have to stop the business.
Ibrahim Abubakar, TV3 News, Kumasi.
Well, so that's Ibrahim Abubakar's report there, and giving details of this. And in fact, not just the Ashanti region, we have reactions from all 16 regions across the country and how this is going to impact on especially the business community. And guess what? They have indicated that they would have no choice than to pass on the increase. If this tax is eventually accented to by the president and implemented, they'll pass on the increase to us, you and I, the consumer. And we're already dealing with the increase in the prices of items, and your income remains the same. That's the situation, the reality. Abeku Jankwansa is a tax partner at PricewaterhouseCoopers. Today, we want to focus on the income tax amendment bill. We'll focus on the other two in the coming days. Abeku, thank you so much for connecting with us on Ghana Tonight. For this particular one, the income tax amendment bill, help us understand the impact, the incidence of it on the incomes of the people who are watching us right now.
Thank you very much, Alfred. According to government, the bill that was sent to Parliament, government is expecting that if the bill, which has now been passed, should work as expected, then they're expecting to raise about 1.3 billion cedis this year. However, Alfred, you would agree that 3 months of the year has already gone by and the law is yet to come into force. I'm not too sure whether at the time government was considering this, they had planned for a 3-month delay. If they did, then yes, they may still get a 1.3. If not, then the 1.3 may be at risk.
True.
To add to that, the 1.3 makes certain assumptions. Maybe businesses will continue as expected, or if some fold up, or if some do not generate the kind of income that they're expecting, then maybe the 1.3 could still be realized. But if that should materially depart from what government planned, then just as we experience for the e-levy, the income that is being projected here may not be realized. The income tax bill that was submitted to Parliament last year have been considered by Parliament. But the conversation that we'll be having would assume that everything that was submitted for Parliament's consideration was not changed. If there were certain changes, then we'll get to know when the president has sent and the bill is now available to the public.
I see. But for the benefit of the public, now what we're thinking about is what bracket of income would be impacted by the various levels of the application or implementation of this income tax amendment bill. Take us through the computation, okay? So we appreciate which income bracket is not going to be significantly impacted and the ones that will be significantly impacted.
The bill that was submitted to Parliament for consideration contains this tax table.
Okay.
And as our viewers can see, the heading of the table shows number, chargeable income, and rate of tax.
That's it.
So this means that the tax table here that we're going to talk about is principally on chargeable income. There are other income in the tax law that is subject to tax, but we do not refer to them as chargeable income. The focus of this conversation is just on chargeable income. That's the first thing viewers should take note of. The second thing viewers should take note of is that this table only applies to resident individuals. So if you earn income in Ghana or from Ghana and you do not meet the definition of a resident individual, this particular table does not apply to you. I would obviously expect viewers to be asking, who is a resident individual? Alfred, the simplest definition of a resident individual is anybody who stays in this country of ours for more than 6 months over any 12-month period is a resident individual. With that background, Alfred, we can see from this table that this table has 7 levels or 7 numberings. The main change that has been inserted in this table is the 7th number, which says that chargeable income exceeding 600,000 would attract a tax rate of 35%. This table, Alfred, is an annual table. This is not a monthly table. So one may also want to ask, what is the monthly equivalent? The reason being that a lot of people who would comply or on whom this table will be applied would be employees. So if you earn chargeable income, not basic salary, not gross salary, but what is technically referred to as chargeable income. And that chargeable income now exceeds 600,000 cedis over a year, then you would be subject to tax on any extra at a rate of 35%. The question that Alfred one may ask is, how does this compare to the table that we currently have? And I'm saying the table that we currently have because, as you rightly said from the start of this interview, we don't have information that the president has assented to the bill yet, and neither can we say that the bill which has been passed is now an act with an act number and a date of Gazette notification. So pending those steps that are yet to be completed, the current tables are the tables that will still apply. So the next slide here will show you where we're actually coming from. So after the first set of gray colored numbers are the current tables that we have. And what you can see from the first two gray bits is that currently, if you earn above 240,000 Ghana cedis as chargeable income, or a monthly equivalent amount of 20,000, then your tax rate would be 35%. Now, if you look at the yellowish kind of color, what you see is the translation of the table that I just showed viewers, where you now have the 600,000 coming in at 35%.
Right.
So, Alfred, what does this mean? Let's focus on the last two rows.
Okay.
Focusing on the last two rows, what this means is that if your monthly chargeable income does not exceed the equivalent of 402 Ghana cedis, then you don't pay any income tax. If your income now goes up to a monthly amount of 512 Ghana cedis, you would only pay tax on the excess beyond the 402. When you multiply 5% by the difference, which is 110, you would notice that your tax rate now, your tax amount now becomes 5.5.
Right.
You continue in the same order until you get to the point where now, if you earn chargeable income of up to 50,000 per month, you would pay a tax of about 13,681 Ghana cedis. Beyond that, your tax rate would be 35%. The last comment, Alfred, I would like to make on this slide before you ask any question is for us to do a quick comparison.
Okay.
If you compare the second gray column to the fourth gray column, you can see that what happens is that the first row, which is 365, changed to 402. However, the intermediary numbers remained the same until you get to the higher parts of this table. So you can see 365 changed to 402, but 110 remained 110, 130 remained 130, 3,000 remained 3,000, 16,365 also remained 16,365. What this essentially means, Alfred, roughly, is that because the tax-free band has increased, anybody that earns chargeable income of up to 20,000 would realize that they would actually end up paying a lower income tax. That may actually continue up to even when you get to 50,000 a month.
I see.
The moment you cross 50,000, that is where you would now have a 35% top income tax to pay. So in brief, for implementation purposes, what we tend to do is that this table that Parliament presumably approved without any change is translated into a monthly type table for us to be able to do our monthly computations.
We'll put that table back, but you kept mentioning chargeable income. Okay, for the benefit of our viewers, what is the difference between the chargeable income and the basic income, and then, for instance, the gross income?
That's a very good question. So chargeable income is broadly that income on which you apply your tax rate. So let me start from the basic salary down to the chargeable income. Alfred is employed by TV3 for a certain basic salary. Because Alfred is employed by TV3, Alfred would have to make contributions, or TV3 will have to help Alfred make contributions for SNIT, for instance. The tax law provides that when contributions are made by Alfred or Alfred's behalf to SNIT, Alfred should not pay tax on the portion of the contributions to SNIT. So simply put, anything that the law allows you to deduct from your gross salary that would enable you derive a net value, that net value is called your chargeable income for the purposes of Alfred. This gets a bit complicated in other cases, but for the sake of our readers or our listeners, they should just appreciate that when you have your basic salary, there are other statutory requirements. For example, contributions to SNIT and to the second tier trustee, and some even have third tier trustees that they appoint. Contributions that you make to these bodies up to a certain threshold will be deducted in arriving at your chargeable income. So chargeable income is not necessarily basic salary, but rather it is that income that you apply your income tax rate to arrive at the tax that you pay.
I see. Abeko, great stuff. Thank you so much. And in fact, we'll make this available on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and then also on 3news.com. This breakdown that you've given and how if this income tax amendment bill, as approved by Parliament, is accepted to by the President, would impact on the various income brackets. Appreciate your time. Abeko Jankwansa is a tax partner at PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC. Thank you. Thank you, Abeko, for this. And subsequently, we'll have a lot more conversation about the other aspects of this particular bill. But the controversy surrounding the arrest of 4 persons belonging to a gang at Axim has reignited the thorny debate over the police probing itself. Okay, it happens every now and then. While the service is saying that the men in custody attacked an Axim police patrol team, it's actually emerging that the suspects were allegedly demanding their share of a booty extorted from illegal miners. Very interesting and similar tale. Komla Adom takes a look at the developments and the renewed calls for an independent probe into this. Take a look.
It is another test case for the police. Not the first time any of the personnel of a service will be embroiled in a controversial matter. But if you saw the viral video of a gang attacking the police officers in Axim, you will suspect threat of harm. But it is emerging the policemen were negotiating with the attackers to be released. Leader of a gang has been speaking about the circumstances under which they accosted the policemen.
We work with the police to extort monies from many Galamsey sites.
This is contrary to information released by the police service over the weekend about the retrieval of some arms and cartridges from the suspects.
The guns that were retrieved are not for us.
The police says it has referred the claims of extortion contained in that video to the Police Professional Standards Bureau, PIBS. But that is where the problem is. The police cannot investigate itself. That's been a call that's long been championed by civil society groups, human rights advocates, and other individuals in society.
I lead the team to sites and I give them the extorted monies.
And for the umpteenth time, there are fresh calls for the establishment of an independent investigative body to look into some of these matters. Security analyst Emmanuel Kuting cannot emphasize this enough.
Lovers of democracy, civil voices must amplify this call that it is about time we have an independent police commission not headed by the police.
Emmanuel Kuting is not the one who holds this view. Justice Tankebe is expert in policing and associate professor in criminology at the University of Cambridge. Thank you so much, Mr. Tankebe, for joining us on Ghana Tonight. You've seen the videos, and should the police be investigating itself in this particular issue, considering how things are unfolding now?
Yes, I have seen the videos, and look, I think when we talk about accountability, we've always made a point that it is crucial to any functioning police organization that there are systems of accountability. Without a question, some of these have to be internal, because accountability is not just about responses to police misconduct per se, or at least allegations of police misconduct. I mean, we could also talk about accountability in terms of how police investigate certain types of offenses and so forth. How even do they use their resources and a range of other areas. So the area of misconduct or suspected misconduct is just one domain of accountability. And in that domain, we can certainly have some level of internal mechanisms. Indeed, they are crucial because we cannot have a situation where internal accountability mechanisms are considered somehow irrelevant, have to be supplanted by complete external oversight. That would not obviously work. But it is also the case that we cannot rely entirely on internal mechanisms alone. And it is important that, as we've said time and again, that we do have some external scrutiny to ensure that at least, I mean, the bill certain confidence that the police are not just protecting their own, that they are holding officers to account, and that that is crucial to public confidence and so forth. So it is important that we do have these external oversight.
On this. But, you know, in what form should this external oversight or investigation that you're also agreeing with, in what form should it come?
Well, as you can see, we've had situations, we have some, I mean, the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice has some responsibility in terms of issues of suspected issues of injustice to be able to investigate. We have the Parliamentary Select Committee, which is also have some oversight. You can also talk about the Police Council as also providing some kind of oversight. But the point that we've always made is that these institutions are not really that effective, and that it's important for us to have a new independent police oversight with its sole objective is to do precisely that, to look into suspected cases of misconduct by individual or group of officers, but also to do more than that, to provide some kind of oversight in terms of how police, how effectively police conduct themselves, what systems they have for improvement and so forth. So what we're talking about is a new independent institution that is able to scrutinize the police and ensure that they act in accordance with the rule of law. They are able to hold their officers to account and so forth.
I see, but you see, this is not the first time the police has decided to investigate itself. We've seen a number of instances in the past where something happens, there are calls for independent investigation, but that is not heeded too. They go ahead with their own investigations And so in most cases, we come out and we don't get closure or finality to some of the issues that the police has investigated itself. So who has to instruct to get this external oversight or investigation done? In this instance, for instance?
Well, I'm not discussing external oversight in a specific case. I'm talking about, you see, we've had this situation where suspected cases of police abuse of their powers leads to public pressure. There is an ad hoc arrangement instituted to look into that specific instance of suspected police conduct. And then we go back to business as usual. That is certainly not the way I see things. I'm talking about having an institution that is specifically mandated to look into such cases where, I mean, at least citizens will have another avenue to which they can lodge complaints about police suspected abuse of their authority. And so if cases like this happen, we would expect that that institution would automatically deal with that. But if your question has to do with, in this specific instance, should we be having some external investigation also? That really, I don't know, because I don't think it is the way to deal with the issue at heart. And the issue here is to have an institutional arrangement in which, yes, we have internal mechanisms to ensure that there is effective supervision, there is accountability for how police use their resources, supervise, investigate cases, and so forth, but also an external body that is able to provide another layer of accountability. And I think that's what we should be aiming for, rather than specific instances asking for external investigations. Those investigations are done, they never really produce any meaningful change. And so we move from case to case. I don't think that's satisfactory.
I see, but has the police itself over time, from what you've seen, vetted itself in, as it were, improving on the accountability to the public? Because an effective policing, as you indicated, is what the public would also complement.
Well, it is hard to say that they haven't made any improvement. I think they're trying, they're responding to public pressure, and you see that they almost always appear to respond to these videos, to these allegations, and try to investigate them. As to what become of those investigations is often not clear. As to whether people are satisfied with the investigations done, I am not too sure. And again, it's also because people think you can't have the police policing themselves. And so I think it is in the interest of the police to ensure that there is this, it helps to build public confidence in them as an institution. And we know what public confidence can mean for the effectiveness of the police. So it's in their own interest to ensure that there is this external mechanism that holds, that is able to scrutinize what they do and so forth. I mean, interestingly, over here in the UK, we've had a recent case of the London Metropolitan Police.
Okay, right on. I thank you so much. Justice Tankebe is an expert in policing and associate professor in criminology, University of Cambridge. Thank you so much for your thoughts on this. We'll see how the coming days will look like and if the police would heed to the calls for an independent investigation into this. But tomorrow at 10 a.m. at Marriott Hotel, Airport City, the 3 Business is organizing the Economic Sustainability Summit, and in collaboration with the Africa Center for Energy Policy and Imani Africa. That's what you see on the screen. We'll have Benjamin Boachi, Executive Director of ASEP, Professor Godfred Bobking, is an economist and professor of finance at the University of Ghana, Legon. David Ofosu-Dote is a senior partner, that's AB and David Africa. Kwame P. is an economist. Doris Ahiati is a financial consultant, an executive coach. Senior Hosi is executive chair of Cleve and Tove. So you see there, all of them will be there to address the issues and profess solution as well on the way forward. Join us tomorrow at 10 a.m. On behalf of the rest of the team here on Ghana Tonight, thank you so much for staying with us. Join us same time tomorrow at 10 p.m. I am Alfred Ocansey. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.